that. Welcome inside another edition of TinChattin, boys and girls. As always, I am Justin Prince, joined by Mike Maahs, the radio play-by-play voice of the Fort Wayne TinCaps. Mike, we come with better news. The TinCaps are playing a little bit better baseball than last week. They won 3 of their last 4, and of course, the talking point today, the big night on Tuesday night, opening their series with the Dayton Dragons with that big victory and the no-hitter, the third in team history on Tuesday.
Yeah, what a way to start the road trip. And I texted those words to Mike Nutter when it was all over. As you said, the third in franchise history. The original one was in 2009. Simon Castro, 7-inning game against Dayton, ironically, where he only allowed 1 batter to reach base on a hit batsman. A quartet led by Max Fried on May 9th, 2013, turned the trick. And then Tuesday night, and boy, did Iriarte have it going.
Yeah, he did 6 innings. What did he have? 5 punch-outs, I believe it was. 5 or 6 punch-outs.
8.
8 punch-outs. See, I was off. Look at me. 8 punch-outs for Jairo Iriarte in the start that night. Really set the tone for the rest of the game. Alan Mundo, unfortunately, obviously had to leave with a fingernail issue. Seems like he should be okay. Nothing's too lingering. But what a job by the back end of that bullpen to come in from Alan Mundo and then Adam Smith to shut things down.
Yeah, and Iriarte went, you said 6 innings, walk one. He only allowed 2 base runners.
Yeah.
And the first one was a hit batsman with 2 outs in the second inning. And the other one was a leadoff walk in the 6th. And that was it. Only 2 runners he allowed all night. He had it going. And then pitch count-wise, that was the end of his night.
Yeah.
And then you got Mundo comes in, retires the first 5 batters he faces, and as you say, he had the pinky problem, and he left pitching to Michael Troutwine with a count of 2 balls and no strikes in the bottom of the 8th.
Yeah.
And Adam Smith comes in, and I know a lot of us TinCap fans were wondering, could Smith keep it going?
Yeah, I don't remember.
And what does he do?
Yeah.
3 strikes in a row.
Yep.
To get the batter out. And it was great, and then we go to the 9th, and
yeah,
hit
first
a
off,
batter.
Let's start with the 9th. Yeah, let's start with the 9th, Mike. That first batter of that 9th inning. How about that catch from Jacob Marcy after the game? You hear Johnny Matthews talking about Marcy actually pulled the outfield in a handful of steps right before that pitch, and makes that great diving catch. Saves the no-hitter. And they always say there's one play that seems like it saves the no-hitter or a perfect game. And that was certainly that play from Jacob Marcy.
I believe we talked last week, if it wasn't last week, the week before, about the fact that Jacob Marcy is the best defensive outfielder in the Padres minor league system.
Yeah, he really is.
By far. And he's smart as a cookie. Maybe because he's a native Michigander like me, and courtesy of Allen Park High School and Central Michigan University, but he is a thinking man's outfielder. And you know, to have him, all of a sudden, he's analyzing the game himself too. And to be able to have a good memory to know what these hitters do, and for him to come up, him being Jacob Marcy, to come up with that idea, let's bring all 3 of us outfielders in a couple of strides just in case. And
yeah,
what a play. It's a play of the year by far.
Yeah. And if he doesn't bring them in, Mike, he might not even make that catch. Because, I mean, he had to dive at the last second to make the grab and literally took it right off the turf. So if he doesn't bring the outfield in a few steps, there's no saying he even necessarily gets that ball. He might have to hold up so the ball doesn't get behind him. And there goes the no-no. But what a play, what a heads-up play by him, and what a fun moment for the team.
And almost apropos, he also made the last put out of the game on a fly ball hit to deep straightaway center field, where he caught the ball maybe at most 3 feet away from the center field wall.
Yeah, Adam Smith even said after the game, he goes, when he hit that ball, he thought there was a chance that he just gave up the shutout and the no-hitter all in one pitch. And but he said, you know, obviously having a guy like Jacob Marcy out there is always a good thing, and certainly a cool moment. Like we said, 3rd no-hitter in franchise history,
yeah.
1st in over a decade for this team. So pretty cool moment. And we actually got to hear from the team after the game. We're going to let you relive what they thought on Tuesday night.
I mean, the boys were just feeling it tonight. Jairo came in here throwing fuzz, doing his job. Mundo came in, did his job. Sadly, he had to leave with some sort of finger injury. So I was just glad to be in that moment, be able to clean up the rest of the stuff that was going on and finishing the game.
It's special. I mean, you don't get to, these don't happen often, so just to be a part of one and see it happen live in person and be able to help the cause is just pretty cool and surreal.
I mean, this is a great moment for the TinCaps history, and I'm excited to see what happens next.
Yeah, pretty cool moment. You could see it in the guys' eyes and just the way that they talked after the game, how much it meant to them, how much it meant to Johnny Matthews, too. And
We talked about the pitching. We talked the excellent defense, especially from Jacob Maahs. We have to give the offense credit on Tuesday night because they were patient at the plate. They scored 4 runs in the top of the second inning, taking advantage of 2 hits, 2 walks, and a hit batter.
Yeah.
And then they put 2 more runs up on the board in the third, so they got the lead for Iriarte.
Yeah.
And as you say, Wednesday night again, good pitching, and the TinCaps took advantage of a 4-run 7th inning to break a 1-1 tie, ultimately winning that game 5-1.
yeah, the bullpen really pitched well those first 2 nights. Last night, a little bit of a different story. Thursday night, we should say a little bit of a different story. They blow a 6-1 lead, but still good to see the offense starting to put up some numbers. But like we've said all year, got to see the bullpen pick things up a little bit.
Yeah, they do. And it was a tough 9th inning last night for Chris Lincoln. He was entrusted to try to hang on to a 1-run lead, and he just didn't have his best stuff. And give credit to Dayton. You know, it's embarrassing enough to get beat and to get no hit, and then to lose the next night, and now you're down 5 runs going into the 7th inning. But they made a good comeback. Yeah. And you know, and all of a sudden, when you get the bases loaded, 1 out, and one of your best hitters at the plate, you never know what's going to happen. And the solid base hit to right, and that was all she wrote.
Yep, absolutely was. Now we've got 2 games left over in Dayton for the rest of this week, Mike, and then next week we are back home at the friendly confines of Parkview Field.
To start the longest homestand of the season, 12 games in 13 days, starting off with our friends from the state capital of the state of Michigan, the Lansing Lugnuts coming to town. And that's going to be most interesting because we mentioned it in the last couple of weeks. You've got a race between Great Lakes, West Michigan, and Lake County for the top 3 spots in the East, and you got a race developing between Lansing, Dayton, and Fort Wayne for 4th place in the East. Had the TinCaps hung on last night, they would have only been 1 game behind Dayton and 2 games behind Lansing, but there's still the weekend to come. Lugnuts come to town. They've taken 2 out of 3 from Dayton. The previous 2 full 6-game series combined, 6-6, playing better. So you take that and taking 2 out of 3 against Dayton coming into today. So they're playing just a tad above 500. And when you stop and think how the season began, we're trying to find a W. Didn't matter how many GPSs you bought, you couldn't find them.
No, you couldn't.
But the team is playing a bit better.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Mike. That's going to do it for another edition of TinChattin. If you tune in next week, you might get to see a little bit of a surprise. Not going to spoil too many things, but all I'll say is make sure you tune in. That's Mike Maahs. I am Justin Prince. That's another edition of TinChattin. Elijah and I are back with more in the locker room right after this break.